Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Welcome to the Bet Online Salute Detroit podcast. We're here again with our guys. We got the madman with many PhDs. We got the CEO, Ride Die. Good evening, guys. How you guys doing?
What's up? Doing well.
What's up?
Had fun talking live yesterday, Victory Sunday, and excited to dive a little deeper into this 56-10 victory for the Trojans.
Was that only yesterday? My goodness, that feels like 3 days ago. Wow.
Yeah. This weekend was, it was a good but long, busy football weekend. So, it does feel crazy.
It only gets better, Jamal. It only gets better.
It only gets better. It only gets better.
How are you doing? Everything good?
Doing well. Excited to chat with you guys on Monday night. I mean, I'm doing well. Anyone who isn't Aaron Rodgers right now, I think should be grateful. It's as long as you're not Aaron Rodgers right now, I think can't really complain.
I drafted him in my other fantasy league. And I didn't draft a backup quarterback, so I'm pretty much screwed.
Well, you'll be able to pick someone up, but I have him in our LAFB league, but luckily my whole team absolutely dominated. So the fact that he has 0 points, I'm still winning by like 60. It's pretty wild.
That's pretty good. Wow. There we go.
Yeah.
But in other good news, Trojans won Saturday 56-10, an impressive showing. Caleb Williams showed out with another Heisman Trophy debut, I think. And like I said, Caleb Williams has the hardest job this year in college football, trying to repeat something that's only been done once. Do you guys know who won it twice?
Archie Griffin, 74 and 75.
There it is. So we're trying to get a 22 and 23 Heisman Trophy winner, which would definitely put his number in there. So here's a little quick story. When we went to the first game, the San Jose State game, Ryan, when we was walking down the peristyle, I'm like, where's number 13? And then I remember he still plays. They're not going to put his number up there until after he plays. And hopefully we can get number 5 up there. But
they made room for 2. They made room for 2. So
there's an impressive showing. Zachariah Branch stood out. He's on his way to become the name we will not say. Jamal, we're not going to say the name on this show because we don't want to jinx him.
I already wrote it in an article, but okay.
That's fine. That's fine. But as long as we don't say it on the show, we think this is the, you know what I mean? So, yeah, hopefully he turns it to the name that will not be said. But we want him to be better, right? So,
I hope.
That's definitely good. Caleb Williams, 19 for 21, 281 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 30 minutes of play. That was also another thing. Marshawn Lloyd, Austin Jones. Marshawn Lloyd had 9 carries, 9 attempts for 77 yards. Austin Jones had 6 attempts for 33 yards. The wide receiver room was highly active again. 12 receivers, 30 catches, 339 yards, 3 touchdowns. The longest one was 75 yards. I'm assuming from Brendan Rice. If I can find it. Yep. From
Rice,
the big play.
One for 75, Brendan Rice.
One for 75. So the receiver room is really deep. And I know, Jamal, you were saying that they need to find identity and they need to find a guy. I don't think that's going to happen in that room. And I will tell you why. And I will give you a chance to rebuttal. Just don't make me look bad because you're way more educated than me. You have Ivy League degrees. But I will tell you why, because of Taj Washington. If you're in a jam, go to 16. 16 will get you out of that jam, and then you go and find somebody else. That's the main reason why, and that may be their identity. If you're in a jam, go to 16. 16 is the most reliable receiver, in my opinion, in that room, right? So if you can't find it, at least you go to Taj Washington, you start getting some receptions, give him the ball, right? And then all of a sudden, Dorian Singer pops open. Brendan Rice pops open, right? And who else? Michael Jackson pops open. I'm just looking at the list. 12 receivers. Mario Williams pops open, right? So I think Taj Washington is the Mr. Reliable, but there will not be a guy that is going to be the guy in our receiver room. Do you agree?
Yeah, Fred. I mean, it's obviously it's a great point about the depth, and I completely agree with you in terms of 1 through 8, 1 through 9. I will say that over the first couple of games, Caleb is starting to tip his hand a little bit on where he wants to go when he is in a jam, and it's Dorian Singer. I mean, think about every time he's dancing in the pocket, every time he's sort of extended a play and he's rolling out, who's the guy that gets open? It was Dorian Singer again this week for the touchdown in the back of the end zone to 19 yards. Then when you look at the Nevada game where he sort of eluded that defensive end, 13-yard touchdown, then really kind of that spectacular play early in the Nevada game where he was rolling to the right and went out of bounds. It was again Dorian Singer. So it seems like there's some chemistry there with Singer and Caleb when the play goes off of script. So I think we're going to be seeing, I think, a little bit more of Singer as the year goes on, as the competition gets better and things need to become more improvisational. Where I completely agree with you is with Taj Washington. Look, last year, Taj Washington was the best blocking receiver on this team. And even when you look at how he's sort of lining up and where he's situated, I think that blocking is going to come in to pay huge dividends down the line against the Utahs, against the Washingtons, against the Oregons, and so forth. So I agree with you that they're super deep, but I do think that a pecking order will emerge as the competition gets better. I don't know if you can just purely go agnostic to not having a couple go-to guys, especially when the going gets tough on the road. So I think fortunately they have their sort of pick of the litter of who they want, but I think long-term you're going to see Singer and Washington kind of emerge, and then obviously Branch is going to be your do-it-all. I loved your take, Alfred, about kind of comparing him to Percy Harvin. Very spot on there in terms of that gadget 10 to 12 play guy out of the backfield in the slot, what have you. So that's kind of how I see it shaking out in the receiver room.
I was just say, if I just add to that, because I agree, I think a pecking order will start to emerge. What's interesting, what we've seen through 3 weeks, is it's almost situationally that it emerges. Like when it's in the middle of the field, whether it's second, third down or whatever, it's like that's Taj time. If it's third and 10 and they're in between the 20s, that's really where Taj Washington seems to shine. And obviously he's had a couple deep passes. And then obviously Singer's had a couple too down the sideline. But then when you get closer to the end zone, it's like we've seen different there. I think actually that scramble in the Nevada game was Brendan Rice that he hit when he was just standing like at the goal line. And then obviously last week in Stanford was Singer. So situationally, we've seen some guys emerge, but I agree that eventually I think we will see, by week 6, week 7, that one guy that kind of takes the torch. But I don't know who it'll be. I mean, because it just so far, it looks different depending where they are in the field.
It's a good point, Ryan. I mean, even with Washington, to be honest with you, even last week, it's not like he threw him the ball. I mean, you could have shoveled past him the ball, a few times. I mean, he just kind of chucked it out there in the flat. So I agree with you. I think it's hard to sort of see the sort of pattern emerge, but I just think that these guys, in terms of their skills, whether it's blocking, whether it's getting open off of a scramble, I think we have to look at their skills more than the situation, because right now the talent gap is just so wide. He could probably throw it to any guy at any time at this point. It's not like only one guy's getting the separation. So I think it's going to be really interesting when they play a team that can actually kind of score with them, where there's a little bit more pressure for them to score on most possessions, where he starts leaning.
Let me ask you guys this question. Late 90s, early 2000s Minnesota Vikings. Who was the number one receiver?
Like Randy Moss, or are you talking
Chris Carter?
Chris Carter.
Oh, we got two different names there.
It was Carter. Carter was the number one
after
receiver.
Moss was drafted, or?
Yeah, after Moss was drafted, when they played together.
Moss was the home run guy. Moss caught the deep touchdowns, but every time Culpepper kind of needed a first down, he went to Carter.
What do you think, Ryan? Who was the number one?
I mean, I would say Moss, but it's you could argue definitely Carter too. But Carter was he was more the mentor at the end and then passing the torch to Moss. But yeah, I don't know. Who do you say?
I say that there was no number one receiver. Like Jamal said, it was just all situational. And I think we have the same thing here. But I do feel like if they are in a jam and they need a change of pace in the game, they could go to Taj Washington. And I don't think that they need to have a designated number one receiver. And I'll tell you why. Brendan Rice, I don't know what he did this offseason, but he's a lot faster than he was last year. So if you need to take the top off and you need a big play, you go to Brendan Rice, right? Dorian Singer, kind of the same thing, but he's more of a deep progression route guy. So he's running like deep curls and he's running digs and those types of things. Mario Williams. What route does Mario Williams mostly run that we see from him? Bubble.
Routes.
Yep, bubble and screens, right? That's what he does. He's trying to get the ball in space.
And the other thing, Fred, while you're bringing that up, and this is just through what we've seen through 3 weeks, but also it relies a lot on Lincoln Riley and what he calls schematically, because he's schematically getting these guys open right now. I mean, they were so wide open. Granted, they're just so much better than who they were playing. Correct. But it's like schematically, it's like he's just giving him so much space. So it's who does he decide? He's like, okay, I want this to be a Dorian Singlebar. I want this to be a Brendan Rice. Like that Brendan Rice play was literally made for Brendan Rice. They practiced it all week for Brendan Rice. So that still begs the question, who's going to be the guy that ends up being the pecking order? But a lot of it will be more on, I think, Lincoln than necessarily the receivers or even Caleb.
I will tell you this from experience, and I don't know if Lincoln Riley does this, but the offensive quarters that I've worked with, they have their meetings are like science. They have like meetings on personnel and certain groups. Like, oh, we want this person for this, and we want this person for this. Like, offenses at that level have to learn to do a different personnel every week. So I know they do create plays for certain people. Like, oh, this is hit play. We want it with this personnel. We're going to set this up. This is his play. We wanted this personnel. We're going to set this up. I do know that happens. So you are right about that. I just don't. Man, guys, I just don't think that they need to have a guy. You know what I mean? Now, the question is, here's the question that we really should ask. I just thought about this now that we're talking about it. Who is the guy that's going to step up when the game is on the line? Who is Caleb going to go to, right, when it's 30, 35, 28, right? Who's that guy? That's what we're yet to see. And that guy's going to have to emerge when they are in a situation like that.
Yeah, and I think Fred, that's kind of my point, is who is going to be that guy, because that guy last year was so clearly Jordan Addison. And not only is the question going to be who is that guy, but is that guy going to be as good as Addison? Because it's fine to sort of pepper it around when you're up 4 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, you're getting all the highlights going, you're padding the stats, you're covering. But when you need it, you think back to that UCLA game last year, backed up against the goal line. No one was stopping anyone. It was Addison coming through time and again. When you saw the clutch fourth quarter drive against Oregon State, it was Addison coming through again. When you looked at that first Utah game, it was Addison's injury that essentially cost them the game, because everyone forgets, even after that 2-point conversion against Utah, they had 38 seconds in the ball. And if Addison was still there, there's an opportunity to get 3. So I think that's going to be the question, is not just who's going to step up, but are they going to be able to step up at the level that Jordan Addison was last year? Because I do think it's a little bit disrespectful to the competition and the rest of this conference to say they can just sort of walk in and win every game without having a wide receiver number 1. I just think that's a little bit too much of a slap in the face to everybody else in this conference, where we just got to roll the balls out. Doesn't matter who's who. And we're just so good that we're going to win every game. I don't think that's going to be the case.
I don't know. I like to see. Maybe one needs to arise. How about that? Maybe we just need to find the guy who's going to step up in the clutch moment, because they have not been in a clutch moment yet, which worries me a little bit. And we'll get down the line to when they play the game. Oregon got put in a dogfight early, which was good for them, right? SC hasn't been in a dogfight yet, and they got a bye week this week, and then they're going to Tempe. 2 weeks to prepare is like being in camp, which I think is kind of unfair, but hopefully they need to be challenged so they can see who's in the pressure cooker and who's going to rise out of that pressure cooker, because like you said, Jamal, like it's disrespectful for the conference to where, hey, PE teacher, here's the balls. You guys go have fun. We'll see you in 2 hours, right? So hopefully that's not the case in that whole thing. Before we move on, I just want to let you guys know that Salute to Troy is brought to you by Bet Online. Today it's NFL Monday, first NFL Monday of the week. You got the Bills and the Jets. If you did not place your bet, shame on you, but you can still place a live bet at BetOnline.ag. If this is your first time going, you could put in promo code BELIEVE. That's BELAV, and you will get a 50% match bonus. Bet Online, where the game starts. So I was looking at the stats, And I have mixed feelings, and maybe you guys could talk me off the ledge here. But Stanford ran for 201 yards. Now, they ran it on 41 attempts. I don't want to go there yet, but I think I have to go there. If SC is not as successful, it's going to be the same reason. It's going to be, and it's not the players. At some point, it can no longer be the players. They went and got guys, and the guys that they have are very good, and they've gotten better on defense. It's officially the scheme, and I'm going to say it's the scheme. That was maybe because it was a deceptive 200 or something plus yards, but giving up 200 yards to a team like Stanford worries me a lot. You know what I mean? And they figured it out early, and if they would have started, what's his name, Lansom? If Lansom would have been the starting quarterback, it would have been low-key, I think, been a long night for that defense. What do we have to do? And I'm going to kick this to Ryan, and then I'll go to, and then you can follow Jamal. But what is it going to take for this defense to change? Is it legit the players, or is at this point, is it coaching? Like, what are we going to do to get this change to happen? Because at this point, I feel like Alex Grinch is holding us back.
Yeah, I mean, the run scheme or the run defense scheme has always been in question since they've got here. And I mean, you can talk on that much better in terms of X's and O's. But what was interesting about Saturday is it was very successful, and then they would just give up pop plays. Like they gave that one run up to Filkins, which I think was like a 52-yard run there it was either the late third or early fourth quarter, maybe in the fourth quarter when they scored their one touchdown. So that's obviously a big chunk of it, but that seems to happen often as they give up those big chunk plays on the ground. But it's like throughout the game, they looked really good. They were stifling, and then they give up a 9-yard or a pop play. So, obviously missing some guys in the linebacking room. Obviously in that third and fourth quarter, not the starters in, but you've said it a lot, Al. It's like they don't really set the edge well. It seems like running backs that they play have all the space in the world on the outside. Like if they can hit the edge, it's going for a first down no matter what, and that is continually an issue. So whether that's bouncing guys outside or whatever, but it seems like it is more of a scheme thing just because the edges are just so wide open.
All right, go ahead, Jamal.
Yeah, no, I really agree with Ryan there. Obviously the Filkins run was a big one there. You could argue, hey, it's garbage time. It's, it's something's got to give at some point. I'll tell you the one that concerned me the most. It was the 29-yarder by E.J. Smith on the jet sweep. And, when you looked up there, you saw E.J. Smith had 5 carries for 50 yards. And why he didn't get the ball more in jet sweep situations, God only knows. That they ran Jurasik on a jet sweep half a dozen times, but they only gave E.J. Smith the ball 5 times. I mean, it just was such a egregious example of putting the wrong guys in the wrong spots that, you just even that kind of talent challenge Stanford team, even if they kind of ran Filkins more up the middle, they did jet sweep with E.J. Smith, kind of found Jurasik on third and medium. There was a blueprint there to be able to move the ball given that particular scheme. Now, what I will say is I was really impressed with how the defense played from kind of a dynamic, explosive, big play perspective. They went, the first 2 games went from a very average performance against San Jose State to a really good one against Nevada. And then they went from kind of maintaining plays to creating plays. And when you look at this team, 9 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Obviously, Max Williams had the great interception. You look at Solomon Byrd with 2.5 tackles for loss, a forced fumble. You look at Jamil Muhammad, forced fumble, a sack. I mean, guys made big plays. They made sudden change plays. And I think, again, that's what you're sort of looking for with this defense, to be able to make those sudden change plays, because down over down, play over play, there is a lack of consistency to just kind of go and stop a team. They're going to still need to get those big plays defensively to kind of eke out a possession or kill a possession. And I think at least we started seeing the remnants of that against Stanford, of guys making bigger plays.
Yeah, all right. So, right. But so here, and I'm going to ask both of you guys this question. Either one of you guys got to answer first. Let me ask you this question. Game on the line, right? Or you have to make a decision. Should we go for it or should we punt it? Because the defense will make the stop. You know what I mean? Like, at this point, it's go for it. And I get last week they had a good game, but I'm looking at 5.1 yards per rushing attempt. E.J. Smith, 5 for 50 yards. That means he averaged 10 yards a carry. You know what I mean? Lansom starts. I still believe Lansom starts. He found the edge early. He knew what to do. Like, he saw it. Like, he found the edge early. Like, and don't get me wrong. They did an excellent job, and they did a good job on the win. But I saw the things that are still glaring, really glaring to me. So I just posed that question to you guys. Like, if it's game on the line, we have to make a decision, right? I say, hey, guys, should we kick it and trust the defense, or should we go for it here? Either one of you guys can answer first, but I'm just really curious, like, where's your mindset? Like, legit, like, what do you guys do?
I mean, for me, maybe this is the wrong answer, but I don't care how good this defense is. I'm putting the ball in my best player, and that's Caleb Williams. So for me, game on the line, unless you're on like the 5-yard line, if you're in any close to midfield, I don't care if our defense is the Georgia defense. I'm keeping the ball with Caleb Williams, but maybe I watched too much Chargers football lately, and I got that fourth down mantra. But I haven't seen enough from the defense, or I haven't seen them tested enough to really answer that, I think, well. But regardless, I would want Caleb to win the game for me.
Yeah, I mean, same, Fred. I think obviously you want this offense just given how unstoppable it is. But look, I think you bring up a really good point, and I agree with you. I don't know if we have seen the requisite improvement from this defense to really consider them to be sort of elevated into that national championship conversation yet. I think the two bright spots for me right now are Jamil Muhammad and Bear Alexander. But when you look at some of the other guys that we talked about at the start of the season of making a big impact, Anthony Lucas, Keon Bars, Sullivan, they haven't really emerged. They haven't really done very much. Corey Foreman has stayed the same from last year. Kalen Bullock hasn't exactly quite had a Kalen Bullock-ish year just yet. He had that nice deflection with Jurasik in the end zone late in that game, but outside of that, he's not quite been at the same level a quarter of the way into the season. So the question here is an upgrade of Bear Alexander on the interior, and is it even an upgrade with Jamil Muhammad? Because you lost Tui Pelotu last year. So, net, you're kind of the same at that spot as well. Is Bear Alexander sort of enough on his own to say this team is going to go from kind of a shootout team in the heart of the conference to a team that's truly a national championship contender? Right now, the answer, I think, has to be no. But obviously, we're early, and let's see where it shakes out.
I completely agree with you on that one. Like, if you ask me, all my experience, 10 years of coaching, 8 years of coaching at the collegiate level, schematically, it's not good. It's not good, guys. Like, it's not good. And it was just the fact that Stanford was not good enough. It was just the fact that Nevada was not good enough. But let's really look at it. San Jose was better than people thought, right? And San Jose gave them a run for their money and gave them all they could, right? They were throwing heavyweight punches up front and had people questioning, shaking their head. And I understand the score ended up way bigger than it needed to be, but San Jose gave them all they gave them. There's going to be teams that could keep up with them for 4 quarters. And I don't think there's no change. I don't think there's any change. And that worries me big time, because when you have to go to Eugene and when you have to play Utah, and I like me, I'm a little worried about Washington. Washington is better than most people think, right? You got to play those teams who have a goal. I am happy we don't have to play Oregon State, because Oregon State is lining up under center, running power and counter. That's a long day. You know what I mean? Like
Notre Dame will be running power.
Notre Dame is running power. You're 100% right. Notre Dame is under center, running power. Like, that worries me, and there's no change. And like, okay, it's a little like this. A little bothered me too, because maybe I have a little grudge. I never got an opportunity to coach at that level, right? And like, I know the basics. Put an edge on your defense. I know, like, you can't vacate any zones. Whatever you give up, you have to make sure it's not going to hurt you, right? You can't cover everything, but if I give something up, I'm able to recover from it, and I could get down and I could get to the next down. What Grinch gives up in his scheme, can't recover. We're just going to give up the flats and let the dude run down the sideline. First down. Can't recover from that, right? We're just going to give up the edge and let the dude turn the corner on us. You can't recover from that. I don't understand, like, why and how this is okay. And that's what frustrates me, right? Because it's like, how is this okay? Like, how is it okay? Also, I went to a thing, and then here's another issue, too. I went to an NFL academy, and Wanstead was there, and he said guys who hires their friends ends up getting fired because they're afraid to fire their friends. They got to separate. I'm sorry. Like, I understand they're friends and help them get a job somewhere else, but you hired your friend and you're afraid to fire him. Now he's going to put you in a position to where he's going to cost you a national championship, and you're going to have to fire him, and you're going to sever your friendship. You should have never hired him. And I understand the whole Mike Leach thing, but it should have never happened because the missing piece to us being a college football team is the defense. It's point proven, right? We don't have that piece yet. And what the scores showed on Saturday is completely different from what actually happened on defense. Defense was not good on Saturday. It was not that good. We were just so much better than them that it showed something. But we were not good, and there's a lot of big holes there that worried me. What was the tone? Well, I guess the tone was good on Saturday, right, Ryan, in the interview with the defense and all that?
It was well, let me ask you this, looking at the scheme, because obviously there's some mistakes made, but when you look at the first half, right, 49-3, defense had 2 turnovers, a bunch of turnover on down. And then the second half, obviously they only gave up a touchdown, but that's when Stanford was able to move the ball a lot. Like, was it in your opinion, was it a scheme switch? Was it a lack of, just discipline being up that high? Was it because they were playing a lot of backups? Because I mean, I would argue that in the first half, I thought overall the body of work, the defense looked pretty good. Yeah, they gave up some stuff to Smith, but overall I thought they looked pretty sound, and they were getting after the quarterback outside of some of the wide zone stuff, which is so ironic considering, like, what's so funny is their weakness is exactly the offense that USC runs. Like, USC's offense would just run all over this defense, and they see each other in practice every day because they're just putting players in space and letting them go make plays. But what did you see that changed, in your opinion, that made you think it was a bad performance overall?
So what happened was Troy Thomas, for some reason, wants to be the spread team, and he doesn't have a spread team. Like, Jamal nailed it. Like, I went back and, like, legit looked like he is trying to be a spread guy. Like, you have the tools to run it down people's throat. Just change the culture and just become this muscle man, right? So even in the first quarter, they stopped giving the ball to E.J. Smith. 5 for 50 is not acceptable. E.J. Smith should have had at least 10 carries by the half. Changes the whole ball game. When Linsom went in, he found the weakness quick. He hit the edge right away, right? They should have just started going to RPO stuff and should have started just give EJ Smith the ball until it just doesn't work anymore. Like, it was there early. Like, so, like, you have to be able to see it. Now, you're trying to put these big old power linemen in pass protection. It's not going to work, right? Like, it's not going to work. Like, so, like, Jamal nailed it on Sunday. Like, he 100% nailed it. It's just, and we talked about it last year with Phil. The problem is he's wanting to use his outside guys and his linebackers to cover their edge. But in the RPO world, you can't use your outside guys to cover their edge because there's also guys out running routes. So if you take a guy away, there's nobody there, right? Now you have somebody just sitting in the flat and you just drop it off. That's the issue, but he's not figuring that out. And, I mean, it is what it is. Let's move on.
Well, Fred, the last thing I'll add to that, because I completely agree with you there, to that last point of when you put the backers on the edge to sort of set the edge there, and you're susceptible to the tight ends and the backs going across the middle in the flat and beyond. How many times in that second half did Stanford have a wide open guy in the flat? I mean, a running back, and the quarterback either threw it off of the wrong shoulder, threw it over his head. The guy dropped it. Stanford ended up with 381 yards. That could have easily been 500. I mean, easily. It was self-inflicted why it wasn't even 500 in the second half of that game. So I think the first half was very, very clean. But I came away with that first half of saying, hey, Stanford's just not in the right spots, more so than USC was very dominant. And the reason I say that is because it wasn't like SC was dominating the line of scrimmage. At the end of the day, it was still only 2 sacks for the game. They weren't consistently getting pressured. Ashton Daniels is just a big, slow dude that they were asking to run a spread system. Even off the interception to Max Williams, I mean, how slow he was in that bootleg. And then he turned around and he realized he had a guy in his face. He just floated it up like a can of corn for Max Williams to make that catch. That was more about Ashton Daniels not really understanding the speed of the game because it wasn't matching his skill set than necessarily SC kind of imposing its will. So I think there is a little bit of a difference. And then I think part of SC's defensive performance in the first half, you got to give it to the offense. When you just get on the field and you score, boom, 1 play, 3 plays, 5 plays, a minute, 40 seconds, you saw a team that got super dejected there midway through the second quarter, and they kind of needed to reset a little bit. Now, but that's also going to be part of SC's game moving forward is, hey, let's make up some of our defensive deficiencies with just a great offense, and hopefully we can get opposing teams to get dejected and make some more mistakes and be able to manufacture some stops.
See, I think that's a plan for failure. For sure. I've yet to see a team who has achieved the ultimate goal based on their offense being excellent. Who scores the last points? There has been yet to be a team to win a national championship doing that. So, yeah.
Well, Fred, I mean, that's kind of what I was saying yesterday, and not to sort of pile on by any stretch of the imagination, but that's kind of what I was saying about Lincoln Riley's kind of track record of, he's tied to Grinch, but when he goes up in these games where it's equal talent and you have to kind of rely on some stops, you need all sides of the ball. More often than not, he doesn't come out on top of those games. When you look at him being 1-4 in bowl games, when you look at him being 0-3 in the CFP, and then everyone forgets he lost Bedlam. That's how Lincoln Riley became USC's coach. If Lincoln Riley wins Bedlam and goes to the Big 12 championship, Lincoln Riley's not even USC's coach. So, he's lost, I would say, 80% of the games where he's gone up against teams of equal talent. And so that there's something there on the defensive side of the ball. Now, let's see if these recruits and Grinch, making some variations is going to be enough. But I think, there needs to be more evidence of that.
Do you think he always blames the defense? Do you think that's a scapegoat? Really think about it, though. He's not losing these games. He's not losing these games like with him not producing any points. He's scoring a bunch of points, but it's always 45-35, 66-70. The defense can't hold, so it gets him out. So it always is hey, the offense scored. We just couldn't get a stop. Like, do you think he keeps him around for a scapegoat? I know this sounds bad, but do you think he keeps him around as a scapegoat? Like, do you think that's his way out? Because it's been able to work at Oklahoma, you know what I mean? Because on the end of Stoops, they were giving up a lot of points, and then they hired Lincoln Riley. It just kind of flowed, but people are catching on to it here. Like, do you think that's his?
I don't think, and Ryan, I'll let you answer. I don't think he's doing it as a scapegoat by any stretch of the imagination. I think Lincoln Riley is just a really good guy who's a loyal friend, and he's tied to Grinch. But the one thing I will say is that we never blame Lincoln Riley for anything. We never really blamed Lincoln Riley for any loss here over the last year and a half at SC, and Lincoln Riley never really got blamed for any loss at OU. And so,
he got blamed here. I blamed him.
Well, again, offensively, he was crushing it. It was back again, to sort of Grinch of the defense. So I think, there's going to have to come a point where he's going to maybe need to take a little bit more accountability on that side of the ball at some point. And it may be this year, it may be next year. I don't think it's a scapegoat, but it hasn't impacted people's perception of him yet as an ultra elite coach.
Got you. Before moving on, if you want to change in your gut health, your overall work performance, and more energy, try AG1. Salute to Troy has a deal. drinkag1.com/salute to Troy. You'll get free travel packs and a year of vitamin D. That's drinkag1.com/salute to Troy. Take your next step into gut health. So we're in bye week. We're moving into bye week. We get to have fun on our show Thursday. We get to sit to talk about whatever, whenever, however we want to do, because we don't have any team to prepare for. I will ask you this, and I will go to Ryan first, because I just choose to go with Ryan first.
Well, that's as does everyone. I mean, that's the right choice.
You have to. I will say this, and I do not mean this in any way. You have to prepare yourself for Jamal's answer, and your rebuttal needs to be really good. So, I will. The question is, and you could jump right in once Ryan is done, Jamal. What do you want to see improved on bye week? Offense, defense, special teams, coaching, whatever. What do you want to see improved on bye week? And what are you looking forward to see this season from the Trojans? Go ahead, Ryan.
So on the spot, improvement, I think, we kind of just hammer down on the defense. So obviously that should be something that we want to see improvement from, whether it's setting the edge, whether, I'll just be more poignant with it. Like I want to see more of a pass rush. Solomon Byrd and Jameel Muhammad got home last week. But I think we want to get to that point where it's a very good pass rush down in and down out. And, we haven't seen that through 3 weeks going up against lesser offensive lines. So I think, take all the stuff we talked about on defense, but for me, that's my biggest improvement going up against Arizona State is who else is going to provide a pass rush? Are we going to get any different looks coming from the inside? I think Bear Alexander has provided great pressure through the middle. Are we going to see any from, Solomon or Keon Bars or anything like that? Or are we going to be bringing other, backer blitzes maybe outside of just the two edge guys? So, getting a more consistent pass rush is what I'll say I want to see improvement on. And the other question was just, what are we excited for the season?
Yeah, for the rest of the season. We're done with the first quarter, so what do you expect?
It's crazy. Me and Jamal were talking the other day, the season's already. There's only 5 home games left. It's crazy how fast it goes. Not even that, how fast it goes by. But I'm just really excited about this team. I've been super close to them all season so far, so getting to know some of them, and I think there's a lot of really, really good young men. Good coaching staff overall. We want to be critical. That's what we're supposed to do, as we should. And there's definitely need for improvement, but I think this team is special when you look at specifically the offensive side, but even just the defensive talent. They haven't put it all together yet, as we've alluded to for the last 25 minutes or so. But they do have a lot of talented guys that if they can get it done, this is I think a special group that can do some special things this year. So I'm just really excited to see how far this team can go, because I know I'm more the homer one on this show, which is fine, but I truly believe this team has the tools to get it all done. When it's all said and done. So I'm just excited to see them keep elevating themselves week in and week out.
Madman, you're up.
Fred, for me, and I'll piggyback off of Ryan here. I agree with Ryan completely on pass rush, because I think that's the one thing that can kind of disrupt the game. But I'll steer away from that. That'll be Ryan's answer. I'm actually looking for who's going to be this year's Mekhi Blackmon. Who's going to be the guy that is going to play that bump and run coverage in the secondary? Who's going to be that guy that's going to kind of get after it? Bullock was, the guy who was playing center field last year, read and react to the defense really well. But Blackmon was kind of that guy who sort of got into it with opposing wide receiver ones. He had that battle with Dorian Singer in Arizona last year. He went up against Vele. He won some, he lost some, but he really sort of got into it. So I'm really excited to see who's going to be that alpha in the secondary to try and take on the ultimate challenge with some of these elite receivers that USC is still to play. When you look at the trio with Washington, when you look at Vele at Utah, when you look at J. Michael Sturdivant at UCLA, when you look at some of the bigger guys that Notre Dame has, both at kind of a hybrid tight end wide receiver position. So really excited to see who is going to emerge there. I haven't seen enough from Domani Jackson yet. I haven't seen enough from some of the other guys yet. So who's going to sort of emerge to be that alpha? In terms of what I'm really excited about, I think the one element that this team has sort of displayed, and I talk about it in my most recent article, if there were 2 sort of blemishes on Caleb Williams last year, one was he was holding on to the ball a little bit too long and overextending plays, and the other was his downfield accuracy. And I have seen a significant difference in the latter this year. When you look at last game, I think his 2 best throws of the year happened last year. Obviously, kind of the dime to Rice, 75 yards. I mean, that was on a rope, in stride. I don't know if he makes that throw last year or makes that throw with that zip and with that sort of ability as he did on that one play. And then the other throw I really loved of his was actually on the subsequent drive. The first play was the back shoulder throw to Dorian Singer. It was a 22-yard kind of back shoulder throw to Singer. He kind of threw him open. That's another throw. I don't know if Caleb makes that throw last year. So to me, what I'm really excited to see is how his progression continues in terms of his down the field accuracy, where you can tell there's more touch on the ball. There's more intention on his ball down the field. And then hopefully we see that along with him being much more mindful in terms of the inner clock in his head that, of course, he has in some of these bigger games. So I think the evolution of Caleb is something that I'm excited to see, given that he's already the reigning Heisman winner. But I think these are the necessary skills for him to be successful at the next level.
There's actually, you know what I actually want to see? I want to see the development of the freshmen that are playing right now. I want to see Tackett Curtis get a lot better. I want to see, I already know Zach Branch. He is what he is, but he's only a punt returner. I want to see Zach Branch get the ball. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to wait for 4th down. I want to see him get the ball. Like, I want him to be included in plays. If you want to take this offense to the next level, you get Zach Branch the ball 10 times. 5 carries, 5 passes, and things change a whole lot, right? And I get it. He's a freshman, and if you're trying to keep other guys happy, then it makes 100% to me. It makes sense to me, and I get why they're doing that. And I'll wait another year. But next year, Zach Branch needs the ball in his hands a lot more than he needs the ball in his hand now. Another thing I want to see improve, I want to see a lot more runs. Run power. You have every time SC runs power, they're so successful, and it's like they just wait to the end of the year to do it. I want to see a lot more power. You have 2 very good running backs, and you have 2 running backs that are different. You have Marshawn Lloyd, and you have Austin Jones. Austin Jones is not going to pop one, but he'll get you 6 yards, which is fine. Right? Marshawn Lloyd is the guy that's going to pop one. You can run counter. You can run off tackle. But the small amount of carries that are given, I understand the whole Mike Leach thing. Run the football. You have to run the football, right? Like, I don't care. I'm all about running the football. The thing I am excited to see is the depth develop. How young this team really is, and people don't realize. I'm excited to see them develop and get better and play in a lot more games, because I'm more excited about the future of this program than the current of the program, because there's a lot of talent then, and as long as they buy in and they stay around, we'll have a good show for a long time, and hopefully it lasts for longer than just a couple of years, right? And even if Lincoln Riley leaves, the players stay and they're still bought in and they're able to be successful, and we could get this around for a very long time. So I'm more excited to see the future, these young guys play and get experience and create something good. So that is where I am. You guys, I also want to do one more thing. Last week we were so close to 1,000 viewers. So I want to encourage you guys to share with your friends, like, comment, and if we get 1,000 viewers on the show, you will be getting a free t-shirt. You get to pick it off at LAFBfootballnetwork.com, right, Ryan? LAFB, go ahead.
LAFB Network.
LAFBnetwork.com. You go to the store, you pick a shirt. After we pick a winner, so we get 1,000 viewers this week, we will pick a winner and get them a shirt sent out to them, LAFBnetwork.com, and we'll make sure the more we grow, the better we get, the better our content gets. So I thank all you guys for viewing. I am very appreciative. We're growing very well, but let's hit 1,000. Let's hit 1,000 viewers this week. You guys,
yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. It's always fun. I know we went over a little bit longer, but when we get going sometimes. So I appreciate it.
Lather it up.
I'll see you guys Thursday. Bye week. We don't have to prepare for anybody. So we're going to talk about a couple of things. Mel Tucker, right?
Oh boy.
Oh,
Oh boy.
yeah. Oh, boy.
We can Mel Tucker, but we will not talk about Mel Tucker if all the facts aren't out. So don't get excited on that one. I do have an idea though. We could build an all-time USC team, right? So any position, your all-time players, we'll just roll around the horn and we'll do that too. So Thursday we get to have a little bit of fun. We get to enjoy the bye week too. I will see you guys Thursday. Ryan, Jamal, thank you guys for joining. The rest of you guys, thanks for watching. Live free, fight on.